latest episode of Beyond the Tape podcast. A podcast that focuses on the people doing rad things in the Australian mountain bike industry, and even sometimes overseas in the Beyond Borders episodes. This podcast is brought to you by Canyon. Canyon is one of the biggest online retailers of bikes in the world. What am I, an Australian podcast, doing with those guys? Well, they help out a bunch of Australians. They're based in Melbourne for all your Canyon needs in Australia, and they're absolutely epic. Love their bikes. I'm on a Spectra at the moment, but they do everything from cross country to road to downhill to e-bikes, possibly even in the near future, so they're rad. Second sponsor that kind of helps us out is Tour Up Bicycle Co. Those guys do a bunch of rad stuff. Stuff from DuPont for lubes and grease. We've got wheels from Noble, a Canadian brand that are doing some really cool things, and which I hope to have on this thing very shortly. They also do Factor Components, someone that's a little bit less known, but they make some rad products. They will have an online shop coming soon, so please make sure you jump over there. They're going to be a big force coming up in the mountain bike industry. Obviously we have NS Dynamics. They are Australia's premium suspension service company. So they do brands as well, like DVO, Force Sprung, Ohlins, all which I'm big fans of. Hopefully I'll get some Ohlins on this thing soon. Make sure you jump over to their website. They can you can book in, get prices, get stock, and get everything from there. Lastly, we're also sponsored by Hug the World, an Australian branded mountain bike kind of tech t-shirt, like just street fashion company based around the mountain bike scene. I pretty much have one tech t-shirt for each day of the week. I love wearing them, riding, working out, doing everything in them. They're amazing. Please jump over to their website, use Beyond the Tape 10 to get a bit of a discount, and that will help you guys kind of get in their tees. Anyway, that's a long enough intro for this video. Thanks so much for coming onto YouTube, checking this out, and hopefully you enjoy. Please make sure you leave a comment, subscribe, like, click that bell thing. I don't know, I'm new to this YouTube. Anyway, enjoy. Thank you so much. Alanna Columb, welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's been good. Been fun.
I know we've already been chatting for like 20 minutes and then this is just the intro.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, no. Yeah, sorry, I didn't have that same kind of oomph to it then. But
that's all right.
No, this has been a great experience. Cool to see what's going on, and yeah, it'd be cool to see what sort of response we get from that one, because I just did a Spoke magazine article recently.
Oh, cool.
And it'd be cool to see, I didn't really, it just, talked a little bit more open-minded. So it'd be, and I got real awesome response, even Jamie Nichols, who rides for Santa Cruz here.
Okay.
And he was talked about how it really stood out, inspiring, and that's really what I'd like for people to, what I'd love to get involved with is for people to do their own shit, fuck this, being number one crap, or, even what we're seeing with UCI, everything is about money. It's all already about the top ones coming through. It's not your fucking privateers anymore, that sort of shit. You're just keeping you faster.
Yeah.
So it's, we're opening different doors. And I think too, with everything that's going on right now, people are waking up to how retarded the system is. So,
but for those who don't know who you are, who are you and what have you done, and give us a brief history.
Yeah. Okay. So, Alanna Columb, and I'm 32 years old these days. But I grew up riding motorbikes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I grew up riding motorbikes. My parents have Off-Road Adventures here in Queenstown, so a motorbike company. 3 older brothers. 2 out of the 3 have been national motocross champions. And, I don't know, I kind of was just always the girl that kind of cruised along I was my mum's only daughter. So I just sort of played around a bit, and then, age of 24, it was kind of what are you up to with life? My brother went and broke his neck, and so I had a bike to use when Nationals turned up 3 weeks later, which was awesome. Turned out I rode pretty okay. And yeah, so then I just chased World Cups, or chased racing really for, I don't know, about 5 or 6 years. 3-time national champion, Oceania champion, few top 10s in the world. Yeah, so I did okay.
Yeah, pretty blasé about it.
It was good. Well, like it's like how we are though, you wanted to see what your full potential was, I never wanted to be a world champion, but I wanted to qualify in the top 80 men. I was out to like prove a point that, girls could do shit. So, so I never was proud of my achievements, but now when I look at it, I'm like, you did pretty good. You're all right.
Yeah. That's a pretty late entry into the sport, especially these days, like 23 to come into it. And
yeah, so I was 24 when I first rode a bike, and then I had to go get my shoulder all plated up because when I was growing up from a kid, I'd broken my collarbone 5 times, and so I was out just like riding the push bike and toppled over, and sure enough, had to go sort that out. Yeah. So that's how I just went straight into racing World Cups too, because fuck, you're 24 years old, Alanna, like, what are you up to? And yeah, I could always ride a bike pretty decent. And then, I've got quite a interesting character to me, like even just riding the other day, I bought a Skyline Pass, first one in 4 years. And obviously my eyesight's bit fucked too. And so I'm like going down a double black run. First run, double black. I'm like, bro, come on. Shit's a little bit different now. But you like learn so much about you, and you're like, oh, cool. So it's one thing too where we can go into, women in the sport. If I was a guy and I came along into the scene, it would have been such a different story. It would have been such a different story. Like, I think the first year I was racing, I had like a 13th in the world, in the World Cup, a 13th and a 14th. I was getting like second in the IXS European Cups and stuff. So like there was definitely a door that, and that's where I battled a lot of depression or whatever, is because I couldn't work out how I wasn't being supported. Like, you were being treated shit by the boys. Because you're in a boy sport, you're being treated shit by the boys because they develop crushes or like all of that kind of crap. And so you're like, you just stand on your own. And then the girls are like intense too. So you try to jump in behind them to, because they've been riding the same track for freaking since they're kids. You jump in behind them to follow, and they'd pull over. So different to the guys. The guys go out and they have fun. They're riding with their buddies. The girls go out and it's just like one. They're on their own. Yeah. So yeah, it was quite interesting in that way, because I get it, because it's only your top 5 girls. It's now changing, but top 5 girls that actually who they are. Getting anywhere. And so we're always battling each other. We're always like, we want to be the ones that stand out. It's like same as dudes, like what kind of dude can you get, and then you've got to be, it's like high school. It's fuck, yeah.
Yeah. So, especially back then, because it would have only been the top 5 that would have been televised as well, like, I reckon. Yeah,
I think we were still top 10 because we were top 20 qualifiers. So I think, but even then, like, no, I never seen top, little bits maybe, but no one knew who you were. Like, you only know your top 5 girls, and it's pretty much 3 out of those 5 girls standing on the podium are Red Bull, So, like, it was, and now we're seeing different people playing because they're actually getting the support that you need, different picks up there. So that's been great to see. And I hope that they're being a bit kinder. And like, I remember in 2016, I broke my ankle. So I went over to China and worked, and I wasn't really racing, And I just spoke to the girls, and I was like, because off season, Southern Hemisphere, like, this is where they come, and I was like, how awesome would it be if we put on a women's race to get more younger or just girl bikers involved, like, let's work together. And they're all just kind of like, yeah. It's like, well, who would be filming it, or what do we get out of it, or it was just like, I don't know, we're seeing such a huge movement with girls. Like in Queenstown, you'll see more girls up Skyline than you do guys, so it's cool to see. But yeah, as far as the racing sort of stance of it goes, it would be, and that's happening too, but it's just good for girls, in my opinion, to start taking charge of their shit. They be the drivers.
For sure.
So, yeah. No, it's good what we're watching. Man, some of the young girls are fucking next level too. It's pretty.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Like, you look at Valley Hole now, and it's just like, game over. It's just, she's next level.
Yeah, there's some girl like in Canada, and this is the cool thing that you're seeing is like your free riding. There's a girl in Canada, I think, or no, American. She's just now Red Bull, and she's been doing shit like not the actual Rampage, but in Utah and stuff. Fuck, she's next level, and just like walks like, talks like a dude, walks like a dude, and rides, like her style is pretty sweet. And I think she's pretty young as well. So no, we're definitely seeing some good shit. It's cool.
What was the privateer? Because you went over as a privateer, right? You didn't have any support or anything?
Nah.
What was that like for you? Like, was it pretty daunting?
Well, I'm a bit of a princess. Like, I don't even know how to. I don't like when I got over there. I had to like fucking change tires and shit, and I was like, yeah. Fox, Kuya from Fox was incredible, and I was riding Santa Cruz, so Marshy was phenomenal as well. I was really well supported by friends that I made. But other than that, like, it was just me and my caravan, and had no friends, and I was based in Morzine in France. So yeah, it was a whole new experience of life. I was totally on my own, and when you go to the races and shit, like, I didn't even really know how you warmed up. Like, sweet. And so, you weren't like getting every time it come to race run for me anyway, I was so buggered. I was just knackered. Like, now I'm not really up to piss all, and I think I'm fitter now than I was when I was racing World Cups, It's like, oh, okay. But yeah, being a privateer, a whole other world. And you can see too, like, now we're seeing more girls being supported. That's why we're watching them step up. That's why we're watching them, new people on the podium, is because if you're there just to ride your bike, whole different story. Yeah. You're there like sleeping in your car, fixing your shit, even how you warm up, the wind trainer, it's a whole different ball game for sure.
Because the women's field now is hotter than it's ever been for racing, I reckon, since, well, not even since the old days, because old mate just kept winning everything. But yeah, now it's so good, and it must be because of that support, and everyone's kind of taking it more seriously. Like,
the support just changes everything, like, it takes so much stress off you, and like even if you've got someone watching what lines and shit are going on, where to go, and it just makes it totally different. And that's the sad thing that we're seeing with UCI too, is it's just like, it's the wealthy, or it's the people already in the loop, and it's just, you're watching it like that, whereas we just need to keep it a bit more real, and like, like your Eddie Masters, and, I think Matt Walker, I remember he was privateer, and he got like 10th at Wyndham in the States, so you're watching like the rawness, and then what, Eddie especially has gone on to do. It's, he's one that I bring up because I've seen his thing on Vital, which is pretty rad. Yeah,
he's what the Masters are doing for the privateers is by far like second to none. Like, even win with his like privateer awards stuff, like what those guys are doing for the sport is so good.
Totally. But then it's also shit too. It's like, well, they didn't do it for me, but now for New Zealand, like I was kind of laughed. This is kind of funny and whatever, but the next person that took the female national title was a dude. And I'm just like, hold on here. How many girls turned guy do you know that are then competing on a World Cup downhill? Like how many girl turned guy do you see doing well in sport? So I don't understand there what the hell is going on either. Like, that's fine. That's Kiwi. That's
yeah.
But
I'm not up on the science for that stuff, so I'm not going to have an opinion. I'm not educated enough for that
and I like I support her anyway. Like I think that's great, but it's just as far as sporting goes, like you got a whole different body, whole different stance, and that's the thing I'd love to see with women too. Is like we play such a man's game when it comes to the biking. Like even me and Marshy were talking, like those World Cup tracks for us are so intense because we actually ride the track. The dudes just like are going quick and skim shit, whereas we're like brah, like it's totally different. And it'd be cool for us to start flowing to the way that we dance, like how we are, like that's really where my riding's going, which is pretty cool. But like we're not dudes. We're not built like dudes either. And we don't play this like this masculine shit, well, not shit, sorry, but this, like we need to find the feminine with the drive of it as well. Yeah. The balance of it. So, I believe that we would go on to be even better riders the more that we can connect to our shit, Well,
you see that with like Tani. She'd be like the most feminine, I guess, kind of styled rider on the circuit, and she just flows and rides so well.
Yeah. I agree. Especially because her frame's not very big as well. She does it pretty nicely.
She's so strong. Like she's so damn strong for her size. Like it's ridiculous.
I'd like to be Red Bull too. You can see some awesome shit.
Yeah. And what was some of the main struggles for you when you were over there? Like, because you were there, you were trying for a good couple of years to be up on the World Cup circuit, right? And it must have been a big struggle for you.
Yeah. Really, I didn't have a lot of, I had no support. But I didn't really have any, it was hard I was quite lonely, like I wasn't able to talk with people or I could, don't get me wrong, but you're in a different kind of field of shit. The hardest thing really was what I've come to learn is overcoming my mind, I was always made out like no one really made me feel awesome. I would have loved for someone to be like, as time's gone on, like, especially after fucking whacking your head, people that I was racing with or some of the dudes and stuff have been like, man, dude, you were so awesome. Like, that was so cool. But at the time, you were always just like, this is the truth though, but my brothers, total ourselves, would always just like make out how everything could have been better, how shit I was and how shit I was at training and stuff. And, developing the chronic fatigue the first year around buggered me pretty good. Like when I came back to New Zealand, I was sleeping 18 hours a day. And that went on for 6 months and then I just went straight back overseas. I was battling that and just really the mind game too. So you were holding on to, no one else making you feel like you were good enough or special or, kind of you just sort of stayed in the bubble of, you didn't train good enough and you weren't really anything that stood out or whatever. So you just doubted. I doubted myself a lot. And I didn't really see myself, being better than top 10, which was a big problem with how it all went too, you know. I just didn't visualize actually or believe that that I would do much better than top 10.
Well, I guess that's like the hard thing of being the mindset of an athlete, right? Is like nothing's ever good enough. And then if you're not thinking that you're first, you're not going to come first. Like there's so much to do with the head.
It's so much to do with the head. Like it's phenomenal. And that's, your top World Cup races or the ones that are supported, or Red Bull really stands out, like the psychologists that go on there, like what you can do with the mind, is really for anyone, up and coming riders or racers is really important, that power of belief. So important to support yourself, so important to believe in yourself, and a clear mind. So meditation is something that's come in the last, from after India. The meditation is like you're actually present with the mind, That was one thing I always experienced with racing was I was never stoked when I did well. I was always like, fuck. Like I can remember the big thing for me was like, I've got to be top 5 in the world. I've got to stand on that podium, like I've got to do that in order to get anyone to see me, to get any support or recognition. I've got to be top 5, And so even when you do real good or whatever, you'd be like, oh shit, like the next week, this one I'm doing, and you're never actually here, you're never actually in the moment, you're never actually present with what's actually going on today.
Yeah. Like you hear that all the time, like someone will come 6th and they'll be so devo that they came 6th in the world, and it's like, dude, like that's epic.
I know. It's I mean, I was, even when I was my first, we'll say, spiritual teacher, energy worker, when I was a bit younger. I was in Norway and I was killing it. Like it was going to be a sick race. It was world champs. Anyway, I wasn't aware that you had to, for timed practice, I wasn't aware it was compulsory. Like I didn't know you had to make it then because that's how they film it or whatever, fucking the TV. And so I didn't know. So I turned up like a minute late and I didn't do the race, like they totally put me out. I wasn't allowed to do it. Here you are in fucking Norway, Kiwi. Anyway, and, so I was devastated because that there for me, I was really going to shine. And so my friend Hamish he was like to me, all right, Alanna, but say you stood on that podium. Now, how would you feel today? What would have changed of your life to how you'd feel today? And it would have been sponsored, like shit, or it would have got something cool. But it was so correct. It wasn't actually going to change, my happiness. It wasn't going to change, my peace of mind. It wasn't going to change, how I actually felt. You would have just done that and then on to the next, carry on, or say you did really well there, but then all your next races were shit, And so that was quite an interesting. I've experienced a lot of, like I've broken over 20 bones, and I've experienced a lot of teachings, a lot of learnings with like that. I believe I view the World Cup shit as like a university degree. I learned a lot from it. And it's gone on to open a lot of doors for me too, especially with the head wax. That's opened. That's created pretty good opportunities, So
how did you go about funding and supporting yourself to get over to those? Were you working at the time?
Yeah, so like that was a difference too with what you're seeing. What I believe with these women, they're actually being supported. They're being paid. So they're not like I'd have to come home and work my ass off to get back over there, So basically I paid for it. We did a fundraiser once, friends of mine, and I think I raised close to $8,000. And also I've got very supportive, beautiful parents. Yeah. So, well, my brother Scott, he used to he used to race World GPs, you know, so they supported him. So I was like, well, same.
Yeah.
Can you hook me up?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I just worked. I had people. We'd occasionally do like GoFundMe, but you'd only get like, well, not only, but you get like $1,500 out of it. So nothing crazy. But it was my parents really that the biggest supporters for sure.
And at what time, like what was like the precedent or the catalyst for you to stop racing? Like if you're going so good and you're racing so well, but was it just the lack of support or the extra pressure it put on your family, or?
No, my family were good. They've always been very good. What really, so doing the scaphoid ligaments in my wrist, that it took forever before they actually knew what was going on. So it was like 4 months later, they were like, oh, okay, we'll book you in for an operation. And the year before I'd worked in China. And so I went back to China to work there. Like I already had that open. And I don't know, I kind of went through a spell of, you know, not being able to lose yourself on your bike or anything like that because your wrist was buggered. I just started viewing things very, very differently. Like even your top world champion woman, okay, right, yeah, she's done all right. But even like Manon Carpenter, like good friend of mine, she's a beautiful woman. You know, it's like how high risk the sport is to what actually a world champion gets out of it, you know, especially in the women department. It's kind of like, you know, and I just started seeing that there's a lot more to life. Like my drive started going elsewhere. You know, I want to, what's my career? What am I passionate about? I wasn't like, bike's my favorite of shit ever, don't get me wrong. But the whole winning thing or that making you feel important or special or that being a drive was, I don't know, like people being nice people being good people, you know, like what's your passion, you know, like helping others, working with others. Yeah, my whole shift just switched. I don't really know. Took a psychedelic that really opened my eyes a bit for sure. And yeah, no, I'd got to that point, you know, I was like 20, 28, 29, getting a little bit older, and I don't know, I kind of just found it a bit bullshit, you know, like it was such a senior World Cups, and it was like, that's life, high school, but yeah, it was kind of just, I just had different desires, you know, who I actually want to be surrounded by, who I want to be inspired by. Yeah, different directions there. And money. Fuck it. I was so broke. Like, no, honestly, I was so broke by that time. It had just, that was honestly the biggest thing was money. Like, I had got to a point where you're like spending, you know, 30 grand of your own money a year. Like, fuck, you know, so you were doing like a university degree, 100%. So, the biggest thing was, money.
Oh, if any investment banker looked at like risk versus reward of mountain bike racing for money, they'd pass out. It'd be game over. Like, it's silly.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, like it was fun, you know, like it was cool. It taught me a lot of shit, showed me a lot of shit, and it showed me like how you know, put your mind to something, like what you can go on to achieve, you know, like believing in yourself too. Like even now when I look at it, I still don't pat myself on the back as much as I should. But, you know, you did well and you can open different doors. And like, I mean, it was quite funny because I was like one of the boys in the sense of drinking alcohol and, you know, smoking ciggies and that kind of crap, you know. So I never actually fully dedicated myself committed to being an athlete, let's say. You know, so it taught me a lot for sure.
What were you doing? What were you doing in China at the time? Like, what was your job over there?
Yeah, so it's kind of like the rest of the world in the ways of, you know, it's a ski field in the winter. and then they were learning about, so it's Chongli, which is I think where I believe that they're having the Olympics coming up.
Okay. Yeah.
Things changed, but now, so they were just building, like, just started the idea of biking and so I went over there, and I actually got to say I have had support because my friend Jana in Queenstown, he went over with me a couple of times because I just did half seasons because I couldn't afford it. So the first time I was exploring, I did the full season, but then I could only afford like 3 or 4 races after that, my friend Jana, he was phenomenal. He'd come with me, and he was my mechanic.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so that was amazing. He helped me out a lot. So I took him to China anyway. So that was like my payback too. I was like, yeah, you come with me, and it was pretty cool. He was building trails and stuff, and so we did a month there. Just like the rich Chinese that would turn up, we'd take them biking and stuff. So
because it was going pretty hard there for a while, like over there, they went pretty hard for the mountain bike scene.
Yeah, because like even they were doing races and stuff. There's like Reese Potter and shit from New Zealand. He went over and won some bike race, and then Jai was saying that he went to China too and did something.
Probably earned more than the World Cup.
Exactly. So that was what happened. Last year I was racing World Cups. I broke my ankle, and then I went to China and worked, and then that changed a whole lot of shit too. You're actually making money by being a biker. So.
And how was the transition out of racing? Like, you've gone from a pretty high stress like position where you're putting a lot of pressure yourself. What was the transition like for you out of it?
I went and whacked my head pretty fast. So
that's right.
Yeah. So it was a whole different transition. But it was, I don't know, it was all good. Like at 24, 25, you're just starting something, and you kind of you didn't know what you're up to with life. It was like, Alanna, are you going to go to university, or what are you doing? And, at 20 years old, I went and traveled around Europe for like a year, and I knew that I liked traveling and seeing new shit. And then, Scott broke his neck, so I had a push bike, and I was like, well, I like riding bikes. And then I liked that it was push bike, like it was mountain biking outside of motorbikes, because then I thought my family wouldn't fuck with me, but they did. That just kind of came about, and I loved traveling, and I rode all good. So that was where it started, and then that's just kind of how I explored a lot. So coming out of it, I've always been pretty, well, not really, but somewhat open to life and its experiences. Like, I believe it's all to teach you and show you and open the different doors to who you're to meet or what you're to experience. So, and especially that 2017 coming out of biking, I was really happy, it was really awesome when I first turned up in the States. Wow, having the Oregon Eclipse was a big eye-opener.
Yeah.
Because like you're Burning Man, I think, so same creators. So that there kind of opened my eyes for the experience of traveling around the States for a couple of months, and then doing the teach training yoga in India was, I was like, shit, man. Like, it was like the stuff that you experience there. And two, like what I've come to like, no, I'm happy because I have beaten the shit out of my body. And like, it's time for me to give her that respect, that love, like I said, I've broken over 20 bones and stuff, so kind of happy to stop being, like, shit. Now that I'm 32, I'm like, fuck, I'm old. But the yoga's helping me massively, so that's very good.
What is the Oregon Eclipse Festival? Like, I've never really heard of it before.
So it's the eclipse, which is like, it was pretty awesome. It's like when the moon, the sun comes up over the moon, goes in, no, hold on. Yeah, no, because it was like, the sun and the moon just like lapse, like they go over each other, and then it just goes. So it went like dark. It went from being light to dark to light.
Yeah.
And we're in the Pyrenees, in Oregon. The prairies, maybe they're called. And it was really amazing because like there was a lot of the American Indians doing talks and things, and it was so fucked up. There was like 50,000, and I'd go and listen to the American Indians go and talk, like, I don't know, talk, and there'd be like 50 people. Just like, what the fuck? But yeah, it's like how I started growing my armpit hairs and shit like that, and letting my hair grow on my body because I don't know, I don't think I showered that whole week, and then I was like, started growing. Then every chick that you'd look around at, like, that was just the norm. So you're like, I'm not even that different, But it was incredible. You got all your different stages, like 50,000 people there, all different music, and then obviously too, when it comes to like, it was quite. I remember one time I was in like this mud pool, and I was massaging some stranger in front of me, and some stranger behind me was like massaging me, and then like a little fairy godmother cruised around, and like I opened my tongue and she popped a little thing there, so it was like, holy shit, because I didn't know. When I went to the Oregon eclipse, my truck broke down, and I got picked up by this Hawaiian chick, and then we were in the traffic for like 14 hours because some truck had run off and 5 were dead from it. And so then we made friends with the people behind us, and I ended up just camping with 2 dudes behind us and this Hawaiian chick. And it was funny because one of the guys, he was from Seattle, he's not gay, but he dresses like a woman, when he dresses up. So it was like the coolest experience, and like, all the different crazy shit that goes on there. And it was mainly they'd laugh at me because they'd be like, oh, every time we come back to the tent, you've got like a beer in one hand and a doobie in the other, I think I only had a couple of days where I full tranced out or whatever, but mainly I just smoked weed and drank beer. So it was, it was so good, you've seen a lot. Like it was, and then you'd go to workshops too, because I wasn't really into yoga before India.
Yeah.
And you'd go to these workshops and learn about like the power of like, medicine and foods, and just like it was so interesting, and indigenous cultures, what you'd learn about there. But the power, like the food is huge, all the bullshit that's going into the food that we're eating, how it's like fogging the brain, you even go into like what toothpaste you're using with your fluoride and shit. So you learnt a lot. These workshops were phenomenal, you learnt so much. And then there was like even psychedelic stuff with like oils.
Yeah, okay.
So like oil and stuff, and then it was like acid, so that he'd like, it's natural or whatever, so it's not a problem. And then he'd come like, they'd like, oh yes, you can try this one. Then you'd plop it on, and like you were full just tripping out like it was acid, like what? And it was an oil, so there's psychedelic stuff to your oils, and like your aromatherapy kind of stuff, and just stuff we're not aware of, because my opinion, it's not what your doctor gives you. It's not what society says. It's you've actually got to follow follow your guidance, which is like your spirit of what we talk of. You're spoken to outside of shit, like you've got a good feeling about it, so you go with it, and it opens different doors.
For sure.
Yeah, so it was that really changed a lot for me. It was very cool.
That's definitely an eye-opening experience, especially considering you were doing beforehand. Like it's almost a complete opposite.
Yeah, but I've always sort of been, I'm on my own mission, like I've always been pretty open to stuff. Like, I mean, I don't know if you know too many people that, your family gives you shit, like, what are you doing, Alanna? And next thing they just start racing World Cups because
Yeah.
something to do, man. No, I've always been very open. I changed quite a lot when I started racing. Like, I become very staunch, pretty aggressive, because you felt like you were fighting against the world, really. So I was quite a different person, and that was what I believe 2017 helped with, in like the Oregon Eclipse, was finding me again. And even hitting your head, holy shit, that's a huge reality of what you are, who you are. So, with racing, what it did was it definitely created a bit of a different person, for sure.
And you've mentioned it a few times, and we'll continue on from what you just said, but like, you came back from India and then went to Gorge Park, which is, everyone knows about it, and you basically hit your head. Like, what kind of happened? Do you know how it happened, or what happened for you to get into that situation?
Well, I was always control and how I would do shit. Like, I would never go and look on track and stuff. I'd never go and look at it. I'd just go and hit it, And so I remember going, like, what I do remember was, that was what I was up to, and I remember pumping up my tires, and I didn't even check. I just went as crazy as I could for them to, like, be hard or whatever. And when I had done Gorge, it was when I first started push biking, and it was on a BMX. Not that changes too much, like, but it was a lot more, obviously a BMX bike is a different story. You've got to be a bit more precise in that sense. But no, I'd done the scaphoid ligaments, and so I'd opted out of the surgery. So, because my buddy that watched it, he said, you didn't really, like, you could have possibly been going too fast, but you didn't really look like you flew into it too fast. But I didn't make a noise in the crash. Like, didn't make a noise, and I landed on the up ramp in the second jump. And these are pretty big jumps. Yeah.
It's hard. Like, it's not soft dirt.
No. So I have a feeling, though, because what was going on with the scaphoid ligament was it would just give way, So we've got a pretty good feeling that when I hit the up ramp, it gave way, and I've gone and, knocked myself out or, like, hit my head, because to be in the air that long as well and to not make a sound, and I broke nothing but my head, and I didn't break my head, just the head bled. But like, it was kind of like I was knocked out before I hit the ground. Yeah,
okay. Yeah, it's almost like your body had prepared for it.
Yeah, like, because with the size of that crash, you would have, been holding on, like, you would have broken wrist, like ankle, whatever, So it was kind of like I have a feeling, on the up ramp, the wrist just gave way. But who knows? So, quick story there for you. Quick story. Fuck. My father. So I've got a very interesting connection energy-wise with me and my father. So when I was a child, his mother died when he was only 11 years old. When I was a little kid growing up, I used to hang out with my grandmother, which was his mother, up until I was about 6. Anyway, Dad was diagnosed with cancer that afternoon. Within 2 hours, I'm in a helicopter in a coma.
Shit. That's next level.
Yeah, so there's lots of different, me and Dad had broken the same ankle at the same time, sort of shit. And my biggest accident, broken bone, whatever, was when I was 11 years old. I was on the back of Dad's racing quad, and the nets had been, the mechanic had taken the foot nets off at the time. And anyway, we were flying along top of Queenstown Hill there, and anyway, my foot came off. So I smashed my growth plate, fractured my ankle, tib, fib, came compound fracture through my foot. And that was like, that was a very big, interesting experience as an 11-year-old. But yeah, so it's hard to say how you think spiritually or how things are connected. But maybe it was a time that I was needing to be with my father, like to, to be in a coma within 2 hours of him being diagnosed with quite gnarly cancer. It was and my poor mother, Jeez,
Yeah. Oh,
like,
brutal.
holy shit, imagine that for my poor mum.
Oh,
So,
I don't want to imagine it. That's brutal.
yeah, it's brutal. She's, pretty strong woman, that one, Frog.
But what was for that head injury? Like, what was the outcome from that? Like, was it a coma? Were you knocked out for a while? Like, how?
Yeah, so what happened? Like, I have no recollection of 3.5 weeks from when I hit my head.
Yep.
Yeah, so I induced coma because, like, with the helicopter, they've got to, because you're going to that altitude, they've got to, so the whole induced coma. So they put quite a bit of shit in me, apparently, because I was in a coma for 3 days, and I have no recollection for about 3.5 weeks to, nearly a month. So 3.5 weeks. And then when I came to, I was in the bathroom, but my best friend, she was the one that was looking after. She was awesome. She was in hospital with me quite a lot, but she said I'd say the same thing all the time. But I was in the bathroom and I caught myself. Like, this is the first recollection I had. And I caught myself and I looked in the mirror and my eye was closed and I was like, your name's Alanna Columb, but you don't look like Alanna Columb. Then I was like, fuck, I'm in a nightmare. Like, go wake up. Like, oh my God, this is a nightmare, you know? And then I went and sat on the bed and then the nurse came around and she was like, Alanna, how old are you? I was like, 21. She's like, how old are you? I'm like, 21. She's like 29. I was like, shit, how long have I been in this coma? Holy crap. And so it was very, very difficult. Like, then your eyes closed. You had no mental clarity. Like, I believe it took close to 2-3 months before I could even watch. First movie I watched too was Braveheart. But
of course. Yeah.
Like just the mental clarity. And then I remember hearing that, in a year, like, because an old boyfriend of mine, Paul Langland's, he's actually suffered a traumatic brain injury as well. And so he called me and was like talking me through it and stuff. And he said, oh, you should be pretty good in about a year. I'm coming up 3 and I'm only now just feeling like my mental clarity. You're always going to be different with what you've experienced, but it was probably about 2 years before I actually, was like, fucking like me, like, like I've got drive, I've got, ideas, you were basically healing, you spent that time. And the beautiful thing for me being a princess is, I'm only on $120 a week with ACC or whatever, but I got paid out pretty okay by my private insurance, but I healed, so I took, for 2 years straight, I was pretty much, smoking cannabis. That was my, my medication. So I healed. I just healed. I would go and I'd play outside. I became a hiker. I'd go walking for a couple of hours. I'd sit out there, I'd meditate, and I'd smoke weed. And that was what I was able to do. And I was very present with my time. I wasn't worried about this. I wasn't worried about that, or I didn't have negative people around me because I've got a dog. He's awesome, so you have that dog. And I just went and lost myself, really. I just went and, it was terrible. You develop depression and shit like that because your life's, but you're okay because smoking weed too, which is a big sativa, and it actually, like, you're like, whoa, man. And the things that you could then create and what was going on. Like, it was, cannabis is phenomenal. I've really seen the healing powers of it. And when I was in the States, actually, that year leading up 2017, which is why I strongly recommend we legalize it, is you would go into the stores and you would say, okay, I suffer anxiety, or I suffer depression, or okay, I want to be more high, I want more energy, or I want this to make me go to sleep, or I'd like this to not make me hungry, or make me hungry, or whatever. And you could get the exact thing that you're after, or people that suffer like Parkinson's or this, like, there's so much medicinal healing powers of cannabis.
Oh, for sure.
It's phenomenal. And what I strongly believe with my healing and why it's going why it has and why it's going so good is because, and when you meet people that have had brain injuries, traumatic brain injuries, whatever, and they go on pharmaceuticals like your antidepressants, your anxiety, everything that they tried to do, they didn't know you, they don't know your character. Different person every time that would come and see you. It was like, she doesn't take antidepressants, she doesn't take anxiety pills. And like in the first 3 months when my eye was closed and stuff, I had a nurse come around and be like, oh, okay, so you're sad. I'm like, yeah, of course I'm sad.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It's like, oh. And she's like, oh, okay, well, we'll get you some antidepressants. But what I have seen with this, and I'm like, no, because that's not what we do. That's not how my family plays. But, and plus I had cannabis. Oh, no, I didn't have cannabis by that point. It was 4 months in before I got into that. But you see, so yes, it's great. Yeah, no, it's not great, but yes, people can say, yeah, your antidepressants are great because you don't go into the low lows, but you also don't get to experience your high highs. You become monotone. You pretty much become robotic in that sense. You're not experiencing your emotions. You're not exploring you, so it's basically just zombies. Yeah. And you do see it with people, and you do see it, and why, people are like, you can tell when someone's had a brain injury and people are like, oh, they're different, or, oh, it's changed them. It's the fucking pills, like,
yeah.
oh, and that is a real thing. It's such a real thing, and it's such a thing that, like only 3 months in and my eyes closed. Of course I'm fucking sad. Of course I'm depressed. I don't need, and that's what they're doing. Like, it's like your doctor when you get 15-minute appointments and this isn't feeling good, and you go in there and it's like the placebo effect. You're actually happier to be getting something, something to cure it, whereas I've looked into your scientific shit, only 12% of your pharmaceutical products work.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's mental.
Yeah.
And so, why I strongly believe that my recovery's gone so well is because I didn't fuck with shit to change my shit. I took responsibility with my shit and healed it. Becoming present.
It's definitely a positive way to approach it, for sure.
Yeah, it was fucking hard. Sometimes you kind of possibly would have wanted to be a zombie, but no, it was, I think that's the presentness of especially being human. Like, you could be rich, you could be poor, you could be this, you could be that, but we've all had fucked up shit that's changed our lives. We've all had shit that we've experienced that you wouldn't recommend to another, so it's, I believe it's very important for us to, like I said, taking responsibility for yourself and your choices that you're making. And we are getting a little bit lost with that when it comes to your pharmaceutical stuff, So.
And how long did it take? So your eye just didn't open? You damaged a nerve or something when you hit your head. How long did it take for that eye to open up? And was your vision permanently damaged from that? Yeah.
So we're watching improvements. So this is also another thing I've experienced with the system is optic nerves don't heal. Yeah. It's not a thing. So when it was pretty quiet, it was quite good that I was kind of away with the fairies anyway. When we were still in Dunedin Hospital there, and they were talking about the eye, and the guy was like, oh, so in a year we could look into surgery and opening it up. And that's fine and sweet. So, but they don't really know much about it anyway. But yeah, so 3 months it opened. Like, I had asked life, you want me to believe in miracles? And then the pupil was like, out to shot out, So yeah, it was awesome that the eyelid opened, but the pupil was like, boom. And then that took another 3 months for that one to realign. So with the first test that I got, I actually didn't have my driver's license for 2 years because this one peripheral was at 70% and this peripheral is at 30%. So it's very different. This eye also doesn't go up or down. But I am a strong believer and what I practice and what I do, and the power of belief as well is we're watching this eye heal. It's incredible. We are seeing, like, and, with the system too, it was like the guy that signed my license off, he was just like, optic nerves don't heal. Optic nerves don't heal, because like, but there's muscles, there's heaps of shit you can work with,
Yeah.
And their opinion in this, it's just, they don't know much about it. They don't know, especially in New Zealand, they're pretty behind as well, because I've come across some, different shit with it, which is totally different as well. And really cool too. I've had two women, not cool really, but I've had two women reach out to me in the last 2 years, one this year, one last year, and they hit their heads too, and they did their optic nerve.
Yeah.
So not to the size of my head whack, but still, like I wasn't even aware that is a thing. And so it's been really good talking with them, because it's been beautiful. One of the girls' eyes has opened and the other one's just done hers recently. And I was like, don't worry, sweetheart, 3 months, your eye will open, and we're watching it getting closer and closer.
Yeah.
It's so awesome. But I do lots of different things, so I have like pinhole glasses and stuff like that you should just wear while you're watching TV, but I go on missions with them on and stuff. And there's they don't know anything. Sorry, they know a little bit, but computer says no. It's kind of like you're your decider of the healing with that one. And I'm watching, biking, it's making it work intensely.
Yeah.
So, because it just signs off, it doesn't go up and down.
Yeah.
So it's just signing off. So we're just having to work with different things there and see what goes on. But yeah, you are the decider of the healing properties with that. But yeah, optic nerves don't heal, so they say.
Yeah, sometimes I think like if you just kind of say it's going to happen, it's definitely like better for you. Like especially like I had a wrist and that's not supposed to move anywhere near what it does, and it's just because you put the hard work in and you kind of make your body do it. Like it just works.
100%. No, it's very, very important, and that's the thing that freaks me out with the system though, is the negativity. Like if I didn't have the family that I had or friends, when that guy signed off my license, I wouldn't have thought to open different doors, I wouldn't have it's healing. Like it's incredible the healing that's gone. But if I had listened to this fucker, I would have believed what he was saying.
Yeah.
And that's probably more than likely, it's the power of the mind. That's where it would have stayed.
Yeah.
So we need to start take responsibility for yourself. So you think positively, you make it happen. You do the work too.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't just sit idle and hope it's going to happen. But if you do put the work in, it will work.
100%, and that's like what bikes teach us too, is like, because we end up hurting ourselves generally.
Yeah.
So that there, it shows us a lot and teaches us a lot with shit. And it's like Ken Roxon too. He's someone that just popped up. He fucked his elbow, wrist pretty intensely, and he went on to fully recover, and it was pretty next level.
Yeah, there's a lot of that stuff happening in moto at the moment. I can't remember who else did something, but yeah, they went and saw alternative medicine, excuse me, and it fixed, like, it was way better than if they'll go down the normal route.
Yeah, it's quite interesting though too when it goes to your psychedelics, because there's some big movement with that shit as well in sport, which I wasn't aware of, but a lot of it's like hidden. And yeah, like just the change of the mind and the power there. And yeah, a lot of people are actually going alternative to, what your doctors are saying and stuff, your mainstream kind of thing. So it's like even like, I think they're trying to make like mushrooms, and I think in America, they're actually trying to make psychedelics.
They're legal in one state now to help with bipolar and manic depression, I think, because of the scientific studies that with the LSD and the psychedelics for that condition is just so much better than what they're usually on.
So much. Like, we've got 127 doctors. I had this meeting with this dude the other day, and he's a Māori healer. But 127 doctors in New Zealand alone. Could be Australasia, but no, I think it's New Zealand alone, fighting for making psychedelics medicinal. And because we're seeing like what it can do for you. Depression is a huge one. It's and cannabis, it wasn't to the level of like what they've got in the States, but cannabis is what healed me incredibly with what I went through. I highly, because you could still be real, you could still be, don't get me wrong, I got into a habit of it.
Yeah.
But,
It's always the flip side.
Anything. So so it was a big movement too coming off it. Nothing like antidepressants or anything like that though. I wasn't changing. My mind wasn't changing. Didn't snooze as good or chill out as good or whatever. So it's hopefully we make a good movement with it. In Aussie though, are you legal anywhere?
Decriminalised, and I think Canberra might be legal.
Yeah,
and then we have a place called Nimbin where it's not legal, but it might as well be. Like, they just don't care. So
I met this guy in Bali. I just hit my head. Well, when I say just, it was a bit ridiculous that I went to Bali by myself. I was on like 6 or 7 months in. And anyway, I met this Aussie dude from there because that's near Byron, eh?
Yeah. It's up that way, up north.
Yeah, so he had this he was talking about the weed there, but it was interesting meeting him because I met him in Uluwatu. We were both getting a massage, and then he was cruising to Ubud the next day, and so was I. And he was off to do the frog. I seen Jed Milden and a couple of Nitrous Circus boys had done it too. So have you heard about that?
No, I haven't.
Frodo. Anyway, what a incredible healing powers there. So he was like, it was the first time I'd heard about it, and he was going for his 5th treatment, and it was real interesting. Like, I wanted to do it, but you couldn't do it because you had a brain bleed, so it wasn't. So it wasn't a good one to go down. But he spoke of it, and then it's been my girlfriend who is the osteopath. Like, she's 40, very successful, blah 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 blah. She's just recently done it, and incredible the shit that's gone on. But like that guy talking from outside of Byron, he spoke about that place, and I had no idea. And he was like, talked about all the weed and shit. That was crying. And
it's a huge retirement village for a lot of people from the 70s because it's like where which is funny because all that stuff with LSD and mushrooms and the medical benefits of them has been researched since the 70s, so at least 40 years now. Like, it's not something new.
No, that's the whole thing with it too. And I just I don't know how I guess there's 7 billion of us fuckers, so it kind of makes sense, but we've just I guess there's quite a few that are still experimenting with it, but they make so much money from and when you're in the States, like the weed shops and stuff were huge. Like, some of them were massive. Like, they're making incredible money out of it. So I can't work out why we're not. Cambo is what it's called.
Okay.
It's an Amazon medicine. Cambo. And it's quite crazy though, because you can do it here in New Zealand. And you can, have you, like, ayahuasca? Yeah,
I've heard of that, yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to, who knows what's going on in the world, but I wanted to go to Peru and, like, take ayahuasca. But the same healing qualities. Have you ever taken any psychedelics?
No, I haven't.
No. So I took, quite funny, in Australia too, I would just finished racing the Cairns World Cup. And I just went up to Yeah, but I just went up to Port Douglas in a health food store or whatever.
Yeah.
And my buddy was talking to the lady, and then, next thing he came home with DMT, and I had never heard of it. I was like, oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And so I had that experience, and basically it just took me to, like, being not Cleopatra, but being an Egyptian woman on top of a pyramid. And I went to the album cover of Tool, like 10,000 Days, where you're like, yeah, and then basically that was it. It was probably like 5 minutes, I guess. And then it was the next day where it was like, sweetheart, you're never present. You are never here. You are never in the moment. And then that's where my life really changed, So everything changed. I went to race World Cups, but I broke my ankle, and then I just went to China, worked, 2017 arm thing.
Yeah.
So that was like a huge, and that's where I'd never really done psychedelics before or anything, and that was like a big movement for me. And Oregon Eclipse I had one day on acid, but it was definitely, and then we're nearly dying. It was kind of like the same thing in a way, like you kind of, your different dimensions and that sort of thing, and that's a huge eye opener as well. Is like they say there's two universes, and on our universe alone, you think about how tiny we are, and we think it's like Dr. Seuss, with the elephant. He cruises around with like like it's probably like it's real, like it's what I believe of humans is consciousness. We're here to wake up, and we're here to love, because we could just be the dandelion that helps the elephant that does this. So interesting game we're playing.
That's the one thing I've heard about psychedelics, is just the way they kind of open your mind to your like own existence in a way, like, and they just help you think and go down that route.
Well, they take the bullshit of our society. They take that away. It takes you to being light, to being an aura, to being color, to seeing that you're actually playing this game. You're the one playing this, so it's like what we talk about with energy fields, so you're not like, if you stay around the same people, same partner, same fucking group of friends, same shit, you're going to think the same. You move out of that. That's like why travel is so important, or taking on dreams or goals, is because it teaches you, and so you're the one living in your field of vibration, your color, your so it's you are the creator of it, and so you start thinking beautifully, you start sharing love, being kind, it comes in return, you know. So do you meditate? Not
in a sense. Writing is meditation for me.
I've fucking heard that before from heaps of dudes.
Yeah.
No, I hear you. I get you. I agree with you. But I would strongly suggest, especially while you're in lockdown too, 21-day abundance by Deepak Chopra. And it's like 15 minutes, and you will, just experiment with it. It's 21 days, 15 minutes a day, sweet, and you will see such a change. My opinion, well, it is the truth anyway. With meditation, you learning your mind. Of silencing your mind, of actually seeing how busy that fucking mind is, because that was my problem being a woman in sport and push biking too, was my mind was too busy. If I got comfortable, I'd be like, blah, blah, blah. And then boom, and you'd eat shit. So, it was, I strongly, Deepak Chopra, 21 days on YouTube. And it's the abundance one, and you'll start because gratitude is your biggest helper of manifestation. It's your biggest helper of getting what you want, really. So 21 days, it's pretty good. And I hear what you're saying with the biking shit, and that's true, 100% true. But what you learn with meditation is how you can, how being present in the mind in your day to day. So. Sure. It's really, and then you can message me in 21 days and be like, fuck, man, I just got this kick and it's awesome.
Possibly. I'll see how it goes. I'll look into it for sure. I'll give it a go.
No, honestly, you'll be like, yeah, just do it though. Like even when you're going to sleep,
Yeah.
or you wake up, or like you're in lockdown, you'll be totally sweet just to, and like, yeah, because I messaged this dude the other day, same sort of shit, like, oh, biking's my meditation. Yeah. And he didn't message you back about the Deepak Chopra shit. So it is worth a go though. Like you will, yeah, like gratitude even. If you just wake up in the morning and say, fuck, I'm so grateful I'm alive. That's what I like doing.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that I'm Australian. I'm so grateful that I live here. I'm so grateful that bikes are a huge part of my life. If you just do that, then that could be your meditation for, do that for a month, and the universe will start playing to you. You think that you're very happy. So what else can we do to make you happy?
Yeah, exactly.
And
yeah. I'll definitely look into it. I'm interested. I'll give it a go, and then I'll message you in 21 days.
Yeah, it'll be good.
All right, might start wrapping things up a little bit here. I do like to ask.
Christ, it's like 2:45.
Yeah.
Okay, good call.
Yeah. I like to ask kind of 3 last questions for most people, but what advice would you give to someone, I guess, that especially like a young lady or a young woman that wants to go race bikes over the world, and people that, I guess, have a big injury and want and need to heal from it? What advice would you give to those kind of 2 groups of people?
Yeah, for sure. So for young girls wanting to go over and race the circuit, definitely like just asking yourself, what it is that biking gives you. What's your happiness that lies with there? Really what bikes give you. Why do you love biking so much? What it is about the biking, more specifically than what we get out of rewards or fame or glory. Big one I always struggled for was I wanted recognition. I wanted recognition. Because I didn't believe in me. I didn't give it to myself. So for young women, I strongly believe that you do the happy and content with the passion of bikes in general, outright, working to your highest potential, and the fun that a bike gives you, that recognition.
Yeah.
And as far as a big head injury, the advice there is patience. I've never been very good with patience at all. And I'm a huge teacher of patience and being present, being in the moment. And so when you're waking up in the morning, you're here now, today, being present and making the most of the situation. You choose to be happy or actually, no, hold on though, because I had moments at the start of the head whack where, you want to talk about spirit in that sense too, is like I went into darkness. I was in a dark hole, literally, like it was dark grey, black, like it was pretty gnarly. And that was when I was just full crying and I was spoken to, and it was like, don't worry, sweetheart, the sun's going to shine brighter. You're all good. I was like, fuck, So I totally, it's not an easy ride for sure, but the biggest thing is the sun does shine brighter. It will get better, but being here now is the hugest game changer.
For sure.
And that was the cool thing about a lot of gratitude that I live in Queenstown, New Zealand, because I would go hiking. It was at my back doorstep, and just getting outside. Nature is our biggest healer. You know?
100%. Yeah, especially in those times. And I guess you've learnt a lot, and your life's kind of taken a few big turns. But have you had any regrets or anything that you wish you kind of did differently over the last few years?
And the head injury? In
the head injury and with racing and from racing?
I think that's the whole thing too, is like, what I'd recommend to younger women is, why you're there. Like, it's the love of the bicycle and what, like, I didn't actually love riding bikes then. I wasn't aware. I was like always out to, well, one, I was trying to make a career out of it because that sounds very sweet. But yeah, like I like lost myself a little bit in alcohol, and for women and especially in a male dominated, like, you get taken advantage of. So that was one of the things that hurt me the most was, not being aware of me or why I was doing things, because, then you're around the wrong kind of people, and you're putting yourself in bad situations. So, yeah, and that was a huge one that really messed me up pretty good was, the being a woman in that and around a lot of dudes. So that was a gnarly one, and that changed a lot of my shit up pretty good. And so I just strongly, like, as far as not regrets, but I would have liked to have known myself better, or why I was there, of the love of the bike to why I was pursuing it, I believe. Because I went pretty sad. We are human though, so you can't be, it's not like, but no one ever has it 100% dialed from the word go. But yeah, no, like as far as me personally, then especially for I highly recommend, for girls to go get it, whether they're on their own or whatever.
Yeah.
But just being aware of that you are in a male dominated world. And just also with, like I would drink because I was sad. I would drink because I was lonely. And so you go down different avenues with that. But that happens in your day to day for everyone. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's good advice for sure. And when you're kind of lacking in motivation to, like, say if you were to go for a ride and you kind of lack a motivation to get out there or something, which I don't think is ever going to happen for you, but is there anything, like any music or anything else like that you listen to get motivated to do something you're not that keen on?
100%. Yeah. So huge fan of Rage Against the Machine. Massive.
Okay. Yeah.
Tool also has, always been a big player. Like as far as for me, but also what I've become to learn though too. So if I'm biking up Skyline, I've got to have like Rage and stuff going on, 9 Inch Nails for sure. But I am also, what I'm coming to learn is like, I'm a lot more present with, if say I'm not feeling up to it, then go hiking, sweetheart, like it's, or do your yoga, I used to get sad or feeling like I wasn't achieving enough or doing enough because I wasn't, getting out on my bike and stuff. So, I've actually come to ride my bike a lot more now than what I was when I was racing. So, as far as music and things, but I just will switch it up and, get into like, instead of going to the gym, I do yoga and I like it. I'm learning my body too through yoga rather than the other kind of shit.
Yeah, I think that's important. You don't have to ride your bike all the time. You can do other things.
100%, so that's been a big learner.
For sure. Easy. Well, that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover. Thanks so much for the chat. It's been enlightening for sure. It's been amazing.
Very cool. Thank you.
That's all right. Thanks so much for coming on, and I'll hit you up once it's all released and stuff.
Cool. Sounds great.
Easy. Thanks so much, Alanna. We'll speak soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.